Welcome back to the podcast. Today we're diving into a book that honestly has fundamentally changed the way I think about money. It's one of the most important personal finance books of the last decade, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel.
I completely agree. And what makes this book so powerful is that it's not about spreadsheets, stock picking, or complex financial formulas. I think people hear finance book and they immediately tune out, thinking it's going to be dense and technical.
Right, they expect charts and jargon.
Exactly. But this book isn't that. It's about human behavior, how our emotions, our weird personal habits, and our unique psychology shape our financial outcomes far more than our intelligence ever could.
Exactly. Housel makes a bold claim right at the beginning of the book, and it sets the tone for everything else. He says, doing well with money has little to do with how smart you are, and a lot to do with how you behave.
Mm-hmm. And that idea alone just flips the traditional view of finance on its head. We're always told we need to be smarter, to know more, to have an edge.
That it's a game of intellect.
Right. And Housel says, no, you just need to be less crazy. So today we're going to break down the biggest ideas from the book and talk about how they actually apply to real life, because that's where the magic is.
Okay, let's start with that core thesis, because it's worth spending some time on. The idea that behavior beats intelligence. Most people, when they think about financial success, they picture Wall Street geniuses, people with MBAs from Harvard, people who understand advanced investing strategies.
Sure, the person who can build a discounted cash flow model in their sleep.
Exactly that person. But Husserl argues the complete opposite. He says financial success is what he calls a soft skill. It's more about things like patience, a little bit of humility, discipline, and most importantly, emotional control.
And you see this play out all the time in the real world. Think about it. Someone with a totally average intelligence, but who has rock-solid habits, they save consistently every month, no matter what. They avoid high-interest debt like the plague. They invest in a simple, low-cost index fund for the long term.
The boring stuff.
The very boring stuff. That person will almost always outperform someone who's brilliant on paper, but who panics and sells everything during a market crash, or overtrades, or is constantly chasing the latest investment hype they see online.
That's such a key point, because money decisions are not made on a spreadsheet. They're made at the dinner table or in the middle of the night when you're worried. They're emotional. Fear, greed, envy, FOMO. These emotions push people to make deeply irrational choices, even when they intellectually know better.
Right. How many people do you know who sold at the bottom in 2020 because they were terrified, even though they knew intellectually that markets recover?
So many. It's the difference between knowing the path and walking the path. And that's why knowledge alone isn't enough. You don't need to be a genius to build wealth. The real skill is learning how to not sabotage yourself along the way.
Which is a perfect transition to another one of my favorite chapters, which is all about luck and risk. Housel makes this incredible point that we massively, and I mean massively, underestimate how much of success and failure comes from factors that are completely outside of our control.
Yes, we love to create these clean narratives, right? That someone succeeded because they were a genius and they did everything right.
Exactly. We ignore the messiness of reality.
And he gives the perfect example, Bill Gates. Now, nobody doubts that Gates was incredibly talented, driven, a brilliant guy, but Housel points out that he also had this one-in-a-million stroke of luck. He had access to a school computer as a teenager in the 1960s. That was almost unheard of. That wasn't skill. That was pure dumb luck.
Mm-hmm. Being in the right place at the absolute right time.
And his best friend from that school, Kent Evans, who was by all accounts just as brilliant, died in a mountaineering accident before he graduated. That's the flip side of luck. That's risk. Same person, same talent, totally different outcome because of a random event.
And this doesn't diminish success, it just makes it more realistic. The real danger is when we assume success is 100% skill and failure is 100% incompetence.
That's survivorship bias in a nutshell. We study the winners, the Bill Gateses and Warren Buffetts, and we try to copy them. But we completely ignore the millions of people who made similar decisions, who were just as smart but didn't survive the randomness of risk.
Which leads to such dangerous lessons, doesn't it? People copy strategies from billionaires without understanding the critical role that timing, luck, and risk tolerance played in their success. It's like trying to copy a lottery winner's numbers.
It's a perfect analogy. So the takeaway here is twofold. First, be humble when things go right, because luck probably played a bigger role than your ego wants to admit. And second, be compassionate to yourself and others when things go wrong, because risk is just as real. And always, always leave room for risk in your plans. Okay, so let's talk about another massive theme in the book, maybe the most powerful force in all of finance, compounding, and specifically, how terrible our brains are at understanding its power.
Yeah, we just can't think exponentially. We think in straight lines. And Warren Buffett is the perfect example of this. People focus on his incredible investing skill, his eye for value. But Housel points out something that's actually way more important: time.
Right. He's a great investor, but his real secret is that he's been a pretty good investor for an impossibly long time. Buffett started investing as a kid and basically stayed invested for over 70 years. Most of his net worth came after his 60th birthday. That's the real secret sauce.
It's the runway. He gave his money the longest possible runway to grow. Compounding isn't about chasing huge, explosive returns. It's about getting pretty good, consistent returns over very, very long periods of time without interruption.
And this idea applies so far beyond just investing. Your habits compound, your reputation compounds, your knowledge compounds. The small, seemingly insignificant things you do every day add up to enormous results over time.
Of course. The problem is we live in such a short-term world. We want everything now, we want fast results, we celebrate overnight success, and we get bored with slow and steady. But real, lasting wealth favors people who can stay patient and just avoid interrupting the compounding process. And that leads us to another one of the most powerful and, I think, most countercultural ideas in the book: the difference between being wealthy and being rich, or, as Housel puts it, wealth versus status.
Yes, this is such a game changer. He says wealth is what you don't see. It's the money in savings accounts, in investment portfolios. It's the cars not bought, the diamonds not worn. It's financial assets that haven't been converted into visible stuff yet.
Right. Wealth is hidden. Status, on the other hand, is what you do see. It's the fancy cars, the big houses, the designer clothes, the extravagant lifestyle you see on Instagram.
And here's the trap. And it is a trap that snares so many people. People spend their money trying to look wealthy, which is the single best way to prevent yourself from ever actually becoming wealthy.
It's a paradox. The more you signal that you have money, the less money you likely have. Housel says true wealth isn't about having stuff. True wealth is freedom. It is the ability to control your time, to wake up in the morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. It's the power to say no to things you don't want to do and live life on your own terms.
That's a completely different goal than just impressing your neighbors or the people you went to high school with. It shifts the entire focus from an external game of comparison to an internal game of independence. So let's wrap this up with some of the most practical, actionable life lessons from the psychology of money. What can people listening right now actually do with this information?
Okay, lesson number 1, and it's the most important: save money. Just save. You don't need a specific reason. Saving for the sake of saving gives you flexibility, it gives you a margin for error against life's inevitable surprises, and it gives you peace of mind, which is priceless.
It buys you options. Second, avoid extremes. In your financial plan, the goal isn't to maximize every single return. You don't need to be all in on the hottest stock. The goal is to survive long enough to let the magic of compounding do its work. Endurance is more important than brilliance.
That's so good. Third, and this is maybe the hardest one, define your own version of enough. If you don't know what enough is, you'll never have it. The fastest way to stay poor is to constantly move the goalpost of what you want every time you get more.
The moving goalpost, yes. And finally, accept uncertainty. The world is and always will be unpredictable. Pandemics happen, wars happen, recessions happen. So you should build financial strategies that can endure chaos, not just ones that look good in perfect spreadsheet conditions.
Ultimately, the psychology of money is a powerful reminder that money isn't just math and charts, it's deeply human. It's about our behavior, our emotions, and the stories we tell ourselves about what we want out of life.
It's a book about wisdom as much as it is about wealth. So, if this episode resonated with you, do yourself a favor and pick up the book. And share this episode with someone in your life who still thinks money is only about intelligence.
And remember, being good with money doesn't require brilliance. It just requires a bit of humility, a lot of patience, and a dedication to consistency.
Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you in the next episode.